Haha, hey folks. Whoop, one
It's kind
sec.
of
Gotta
important.
turn off my Hearthstone stream, which I have running. Uh, just hunting around before I get started on Open Game Art. Good morning, ladies and gents. And by ladies and gents, I mean the two viewers I currently have. It's early, I know. Um, so, the idea kind of is that what I've been working on the last few days has not been terribly exciting. And obviously, the way I fix that is I work on something more exciting, both for me and for you guys. Whew, excuse me. It just means that I have to have a concept that I like and that is a little more in depth or graphically based. I've had an idea of something I've wanted to work on for a long time. It's a first person dungeon crawler, as the stream title suggests, actually. Um, and I've wanted to work on it for the longest time. I even came up a long time ago with a homebrewed RPG system, and I ran some numbers and kind of made sure that it was viable numbers wise. And there's a little bit of story in there and other things, but I never really got terribly far with it because, like many times, I either got busy or something came up and suddenly, oh no, I don't have, time for it, which is how it tends to go with me a lot, unfortunately. Um, I don't know. Oh, I know why. I liked the lines on this, the way in which there isn't a lot of, actually, there's no line art. The only places that you see change are changes in color. I absolutely love that, even though they're all transportation vehicles and completely useless to me. Just the idea of the art style. If you could remove the line art from this guy, I think it'd be great. Anyway, I'm poking around at the art while I figure out where to start and wait for the stream to start. Although now that I'm started, I should probably just, ooh, hello. I should probably just dive in, honestly. Get started and kind of see how things go. Today, I have a blank Unity project, something I don't get the chance to mess with terribly often. That's kind of cool, actually. I like it. Look at this. Look at the beauty. It's just empty. It's pristine. There's no bad code yet. Well, there's no code yet. You'll note the scripts folder is completely empty. Yeah, I know, Whiteland. No command line anymore. I'm gonna go with something a little more in depth today. Specifically, so the idea of what I'm working on is something a little more in line with old school first-person dungeon crawlers like Crusaders of the Dark Savant. I know I brought this up yesterday, but I want to bring it up again real quick. So I know it's a little difficult to see, but essentially the idea is you have your party members on the side, or, we can rearrange UI, it doesn't really matter. But you have some kind of viewport in the world, and then we've got something to interact with. In this case, this is actually the trap disarming sequence in the game. And then they've got the chest, and they're in the woods, and it's an incredibly simple system. It just requires a little work to get started, and then it requires the art assets. That's going to be the hardest part for me, honestly. A lot of it is going to be difficult in the art asset department, and that's where I'm going to have to either start practicing my 3D art, which I can definitely do, or I'm going to have to start diving into the idea of maybe paying an artist, or seeing if I can find somebody who has pre-made assets that I can make use of. I've already bought some stuff here and there for other games, so it definitely isn't going to be too impossible. But there's, some thought that needs to go into art style and how I want the game to look. I've been in love with characters that don't have their own line art attached. It's all color changes that define the look. And I don't know if that's going to be terribly possible for a long run, whether, that'll look nice in a game. But it's something, to keep and hang on to just in case. Ooh, so first start. Step one for me is going to be getting the grid in place. The grid just kind of trumps everything. Without a grid for the game to live on, there really isn't anything to handle or deal with. There's no way for the players to move. There's no way for monsters to be placed. There's no way for things to exist. So we kind of have to do that first. And for me, the grid is... it's Unity. Everything has to be an object, right? In the same way that every object here is probably going to have not only its own coordinate set, but then everything's going to live in some hierarchy beneath it. So yeah, I'm probably going to have multiple grids, and then the player will exist somewhere on one of the grids, and then the monsters will exist in the grid, and all the terrain and things will be underneath it. And what that will allow me to do is I can stream parts of the world in and out. Let's say a grid is the inside of a building, and then we have another grid, which is the town itself. So when you walk in the front door, I can load the insides of the building, but I don't need the insides of the building loaded in all the time. Or, you're walking through a field, and suddenly you turn a corner and, go through an S-bend, and now you're in a different grid, because that allows us to load and unload parts of the game. And we can do it quietly, we can be sneaky about it, and the player will always just think, oh, I'm just in a different part of the game. When in reality, we're actually loading and shifting things about very, very quietly behind their back. Oh gosh, and I don't have a scene file. I guess I'll call it game scene, I guess. When it's really this early on, it's hard to name things. Like, it's really friggin' hard to name things. I named the folder and the game Hematite. Don't know why. I just kind of liked the name. And that's all I have, right? I have some vague ideas. I have a notebook with like 2 pages of notes, and I've got a Google Doc of like 20 pages of a homebrewed RPG system I threw together years ago. I don't know if this is gonna, there are no names in any of this so far, so I've got nothing to work with name-wise. We'll see. It shouldn't be that bad. It really shouldn't. And the other neat thing is, because we're starting from literal scratch, we can go through and do some really cool stuff when it comes to, say, the way we build our tools from the ground up, the way in which we attach objects to grid can really, really get cool. So, let us see. Let's see how we start. So obviously we have a grid object, and we actually need to create a new script, and I'm just going to name it grid and throw a copy of the grid on the grid. That's not confusing at all, is it? Good. Alright, we have to give Visual Studio its first run. All basic things when you're starting a new project. This is also the phase where you can really shoot yourself in the foot if you do something stupid, like say, put in a poorly implemented input system or a poorly implemented event system, or you start tying things together too tightly to start with. When you first start, you want everything to be a little looser, and then as you interweave it together, you kind of pull the strands tight. And by strands, I mean lines of code. It's a little difficult to explain now, but you'll kind of see as this goes along what I mean. And once again, in standard C# style, I'm normally not one to... Whoops, I haven't been recording. Oops. I haven't been recording this whole time, but I just started, So hopefully this will help anyone who's like, what's going on? Like, what's this new project? Why is there this new video? New video's here because I'm starting a new game. That's right, starting a new game. All right. Usually, I don't like public variables. Like, really don't like them. Unity, slightly different case. I understand why it's a thing, because their tool system is great and handles something like public variables very well. Thus the grid size sitting here on the script. I'm not going to go into every little detail about like what I do and don't like, but just in terms of things that if you start in Unity and then go program in like C# or C++ in a non-Unity environment, that's not a habit you ever want to take with you. It's a terrible programming habit most of the time. Okay, so the grid shouldn't have an update. It should not be doing anything per frame. But what it should be doing, and this is kind of the hard part, so we have our grid size. For now, yeah. For now, we're just kind of putting some bits and pieces together. So here's our party object, and I'm going to snap the camera to it. And once again, I like to start everything at the 0 base. I'm actually probably going to shift the camera up slightly. Oh, that's not up. That's Z. Z is usually up, I swear. It's just this this editor and these guys and their idea of Z is not up. Poppycock. That's not. Ugh. So I'm kind of tempted to go with a game unit is a meter, just to make my life easy when it comes to designing assets and then pushing things over. I always did kind of like, that setup. And so that means that we're looking for, let's see, 5 feet's about 1.5 meters. So we'll just put the camera at 1.5 meters high. That's actually a little, I'll just get a little picky. I'll bring it up to 1.6 just to be a little taller. And I mean, it's not like I'm gonna see any difference, right? It's just skyline. So we need to put something in that gives us a reference. Specifically, we have plane and quad. So a plane is just a higher res version. I don't get it, but whatever. Does not matter. Okay, so if we put that 5 meters out, we should be able to see it. Yeah, okay, so we've got a quad in that direction. And I'm just gonna flatten this sucker out. Nope, wrong direction. There we go. Now we can see it. There we go. That's what I was hoping for. I'm just gonna kind of pepper the ground with a couple of these, if only because I want to be able to actually see if I'm doing this right or not. And I love how even though Unity supports multiple objects with the same name, that it likes to add the it still loves to add the one attachment, as if there's some name collision going on here. Guys, doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Okay, and I'm gonna leave one off. Actually, let's swap this one over. -5. 0. There we go. I'll make some crazy shapes so that I can see what I'm doing. So, there. I can kind of see things on the ground. Now the party is going to need its own control, because obviously the grid is not moving the party around. So we need our party script. Yes, we reload things. We're going to do this pretty much every single time. Really, line endings are already not standard. Oh, that's a never-ending fight. And especially with, for some reason, Visual Studio. It is. Now this we do want our update loop to actually have something in it. We also want a grid reference. Oh, I'm gonna have to figure out how we walk across grids at some point, aren't I? Ew. Whatever. For now. Simple stuff, key code. I like WASD, so my WASDs, my fingers, right? Well, actually, these are my WASDs. Technically, if we're gonna get all like video game high school on this, those are my WASDs. So there's W. W will push us hopefully forwards by the grid amount. So we go into our transform. We say position. Why do people say that? Really? I didn't... Do I talk like him? Is that it? I don't get it. I do not get it. You know what? We'll do vector 3.forwards. Because we're lazy. Do I actually... I don't know. Like, you are not the first person to have said that. And I have no idea why people keep saying that, because I don't see the distinct, I can't even talk apparently. I don't see the similarities. So, is it my talking style? Do I just like look like him, or do people think I look like him? Oh, I can't multiply things by a grid reference. I do multiply it by the grid size. All right. Forward times that. Now that's going to be one direction all the time. Okay, fair enough. I mean, as long as there's a reason, cool. You know, Friends was a pretty big show, right? I don't even know if he does anything else aside from Friends. Like, IMDb, what else? Madagascar, he did voices, okay. Yeah, no, I got nothing else that I recognize him from. Yeah, just the Madagascar movies, and I don't even remember him from that. Oh well. So, let's see. Yeah, that's yeah, that's how it goes. Sometimes you get an actor like that, and it's just like, sorry man, I got nothing. Okay, so we need to get, and this is the thing with Unity that I am somewhat unfamiliar with, is if I can get the inverse, my inverse transformation direction, from world to local space. Cool. Cool, cool. That's what I'm hunting for. There we go. So that should push us forwards regardless of our orientation, because we're taking our inverse, we're taking our forward vector, and we're essentially doing an inverse transformation based on that forward vector. So if I'm turned to the right, my forward vector is actually going to point to the, I say right, and I realize my camera and I in real life are both pointing to the left. But if I turn to the left, or if I turn to the right 3 times, I'll still have the same forward vector, because the inverse matrix transformation will give me that change. I don't know why I put else there. It's not like these are mutually exclusive keys. So A, I'm going to rotate myself. I mean, where is it? I want my up vector, and I'm going to rotate myself. Let's say it's -90. I think that should be right. And then if input get key down, we'll do the other direction as well, just so we can, you know, turn both directions. Watch me get these both backwards. That would be hilarious. Which I've done it before. Like my rotationary math can be off a little bit sometimes. Did I? No, I did not attach my script to my object. And I didn't hand it the grid either. Okay, there's all the little bits and pieces. That's what we need. And it's kind of... Okay, so if I hit A, I should rotate. Yeah, good. And I hit D twice. Yeah, looks good. I'm going to walk forwards once. And I'm not moving when I hit W. What's going on, game? I'm hitting W. I did say key code W, yes. Forward times the grid distance, and we add it in to our position. Yeah, that should be... What is going on here? Okay. On the upside, the rotation works, but rotation's freaking easy. I say that now that it works, of course. I don't actually mean that it is easy in terms of getting it done, because sometimes quaternions can be interesting. Wrapping your head around a four-dimensional object is always a little difficult. Transform a vector from world space to local space. Or we just have the float XYZ. No, this should be fine. And you return a vector 3, yes. Just for kicks. I can see the transform's position, so I'm just gonna pump out this thing again. Just because I'm curious more than anything else what this is putting out in terms of vector. Okay, it's just putting out zeros. Well, that... Okay. That at least tells us why it's not moving us. Inverse transform a point. Oh, inverse transform a direction. It seems a little weird that direction is different from vector. It's actually more than a little distracting. And it's also still putting out all zeros. Is my grid size? Oh, my grid size is 0. Guys, I'm an idiot. Like, I'm super dumb. If you multiply anything by 0, guess what you get? So a grid size of 0. Okay, and if I rotate left, there's my... Sweet. We've got movement. It's alive. Uh-oh. Okay, so there's obviously something going on with... We seem fine as long as we're rotated along the... Let's see, what axis is that we're fine on right now? Because as long as we're aligned, it looks like... Yeah, as long as it looks like we're aligned along the z-axis, it walks us correctly. You can see we're moving forwards and that the objects in the scene are shifting as you expect them to. But the moment, let's see, can I get, yeah. So the moment I'm facing, I think this is negative, let's double check this, just because I want to make sure I'm doing this right. So the moment I'm facing negative x right now, right? Yeah, negative x is what I'm facing. If you watch that square, it's actually going to get further away when I press forwards. Not good. It makes me wonder if that direction is actually the right way to do this. Even though technically direction and vector are for the most part the same thing. No, that still isn't working. What is going on here? That is so bizarre. I have not had... inverse transform point, vector. Can I just get my, like, okay, here's a local to world matrix. One sec. Folders. I'm gonna pull this off screen for a moment because I have a lot of personal, well, I mean, I guess I don't mind showing you guys the fact that I have a lot of personal projects, and there's a lot here. Let's just, actually, I'm not even seeing it. So I've written this code before. Maybe not this exact code, it was in C++ before, but I've written this before. I'm kind of amazed that I don't see it. That there isn't some... Whoops, of course I can't type. Come on, hyperdrive. I have a network drive where I also like to store all my things. Don't mind all the possibly pirated things. Wow, okay. I really just threw that out. Oh no, Dungeon RPG. Oh, cool. And some content stuff. I might have to steal some of this if it looks good. I actually have no idea if it looks good or not. But it's called Dungeon RPG, right? That can't be far off from... Never mind. This is completely different from what... Sigh. Okay, never mind. We'll just have to write this code ourselves. I thought I could be lazy, but apparently not. Okay, can I, like, use my rotation to use that inverse transform? Position plus equals. Why would that not work? Because my forward should always be to angle axis, set look, set from 2. I wish they had just like a get forwards vector or something. Oh. Wait, transform.forward. That doesn't seem right. Their documentation is either lying okay, it works. I need to do that final gridref.grid size. Okay. Bizarre. Specifically because this lies. It says the blue axis of the transform in world space. World space is the thing that usually screams something is wrong. If you note the blue axis here, well, it's not blue when I mouse over it. It actually turns yellow when you mouse. Oh, what? Unity, your UI is doing weird things. But usually, I don't know. I'm losing my mind. But it works. Ta-da! Simple. Simple, simple, simple. Just because I can, it would definitely be nice to also have S is backwards. We'll just do a negative grid size and it'll just throw us in the other direction. And then we're done. We're on a grid. Ta-da! Okay, simple stuff. Some things I do want to do, eventually I want to ease this around so that it's not just like snap between positions, but you actually walk between the position, or, you know, you ease between the two. I don't know if I want to do that right now, but we're on to a good start with this, at least. I'll also have to figure out how I want to do the UI. Obviously, if you look at any other dungeon crawl, even like Legend of Grimrock is a newer one that's come out recently. Let's see if I can pull up an image of that real quick. So yeah, if we look at like Legend of Grimrock, their player setup is in the corner, and I'm not a huge fan of this because it pushes it so far out of the way. Oops, and you can't even see it because, let's see if I can do this better. Oh, come on. Really? we're going to play that game, computer. There we go. There it is. Better. So you can see the character information is in that lower right. And, all the monster and scene is in front of us, which is great. I love having the scene take up so much of the screen, especially something like Legend of Grimrock, where they spent so much time on beautiful 3D assets. Of course, I say that, and you can see some low-res texture along the end of this spear, and their normal maps are kind of, they could be better. But I'm going to ignore that, because Legend of Grimrock came out a long time ago. I say long time ago. I only think it's actually a couple of years. 2012. I'll call that a long time ago. I'll give them benefit of the doubt. I mean, technology has kind of come a bit of a long ways in 3 years. So yeah, I don't like where this is placed, but I do need that visibility of characters, so we can say, aha, here's your front line and your back line, if I'm even going to futz with the idea of front and back line. So we'll need some kind of UI to show off, here's our party. And then we'll also need to start in on some kind of terrain. And I need to figure out how my art pipeline is gonna look. These are all the things you have to consider when you first start a game. It's not just like, yeah, new game, start coding. But it actually is a lot of planning, a lot of figuring out what things are going to look like, what the architecture is going to seem to affect, and most importantly, how the parts are going to interact with each other. So, for example, let's just get some of these out of here. 1, 2, 3, yeah, cool. And let's just size this sucker up. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to question it. Bitgem stuff. I have a dirt texture here somewhere. I love hand-painted textures, if you can't tell. I've got this entire Bitgem series of, like, hand-painted texture coolness. And some of these are friggin' sweet. Here we go. First off, we need to organize things correctly. That, for now, can just go there. And then go there. Woo! Can I? I don't know if I can or not. And when I say can I and not finish my sentence, I actually... Oh, there's my tiling. Sweet. Oh. Wrong tiling set. Okay, maybe not 10. There we go. Let's just spread that out a little further, just to make our life a little easier when we walk. There we go. Okay, so I mean, there are clearly ways that we could quickly and easily throw a lot of content into this game. What we and Whiteland asks a really important question for when we start something. Is this whole thing just going to be 3D? Possibly. Probably. That's another one of those decisions that I really have to figure out and come to, is how much of this do I think I can handle if I do 3D art, or how much am I going to pay somebody else to do this if I do 3D art? What I was hoping to do initially is something more along the lines of what, I'm trying to think of another game that did it, what the old Wizardry games did, where monsters kind of slid in from the side, and so that you'd have them always billboarded towards you, so that I wouldn't have to do a ton of art when it comes to, like, here are monsters. I'm definitely not going to be doing animations right off the set. So that means that now I want my my monsters that are in scene to essentially be billboarded towards me at all times, and I also need the 2D assets to do that. So, okay, I need 2D monsters. I need probably 2D character portraits. I'm not doing StarCraft style 3D portraits. That's overkill. Especially for me, right? Because as much as we need to have this, like, I can do anything kind of attitude when it comes to game design, you also need to keep in mind what your strengths are and where you want to spend your time and how much time you want to spend on this. Because I could do this for years if I wanted to hone my 3D art skills and perfect those and then make a beautiful 3D game. As is, I'm probably going to, at least at start, settle for some very basic details. For example, I'm probably going to use low poly art to start with, and then I'll work my way up into whatever I feel like I can handle. So there's a lot of bits and pieces we need to keep in mind when we talk about, like, what assets are we going to be messing with? Like, is this dungeon floor texture really the right thing to be using? Or should I be using something like, here we go. I'm not a huge fan of that grass texture, actually. Sure, whatever. I'll use it, though. Pop that down there, pop that there. Hey, look, it's not tiled correctly. Also, their shader for some of this is a little wonky, but yeah, we'll figure this out. But essentially, what we have to keep in mind is what our assets are going to look like and what we are going to end up doing to make progress on this quickly and easily. Am I going to sit here and make, like trees and all that? Am I going to purchase those? I know I already do have this. Let's see here. Can I just crack this open? Of course I can. It just wants to do so in Visual Studio. There's just a lot of details we have to plan, and that's a difficult thing, is all this planning. Oh, cool. Okay, it did work. Let's zoom in to show you guys at least some of the art that's already in place that I can mess with and make use of. So here's kind of the starting stuff, right? The simplest, most painless thing you can do, which is buy assets. Look at this, I've got trees. Oh look, I've got buildings. Like, yes, these are really low poly things. You can see edges on them very easily. Do I care? Maybe not. Probably not, honestly. And there's a lot in here to deal with that we could use to make a pretty detailed map that is going to look fairly nice. Blue Booger is suggesting a 2.5D isometric. First person, thus the FP at the beginning. Yeah, it does kind of have that WoW look, doesn't it? WoW kind of goes so far as to do a lot of hand-painted texture assets, or at least it looks like the old school WoW stuff. Newer, they've been leaning more towards more detailed textures lately. But to start with, like, I don't mind to start using such simple assets and then working my way up there. And the asset store does have a lot of really good stuff. His name is asking, when's my next stream? Oh, thanks, buddy. He says, I watched it for the first time today. Find it very interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much. I try and do this every morning about this time. I usually start somewhere between 7:30 and 8, and I plan to stream for at least an hour. So I have to run off to work at 9. Like, that is a hard edge that I cannot cross over. Mostly because I carpool with people, and so I can't just, like, ditch the poor guy who I'm carpooling with. Or if he arrives here, I don't want to make him wait. Either way, so 9 o'clock Pacific Standard is my cutoff for the mornings, and I want to stream this every morning if I can. Get what little I can done in an hour, and then say, okay, cool, I've done my hour. at bare minimum, I've made progress for the day, even if it's just planning something, right? I might not end up doing implementation every single time, but I can plan things. And that's a good way to kind of keep myself motivated, keep myself moving a little bit each day, especially since the mornings are fairly quiet around here, which is kind of nice. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer what I can. There's a lot of cool stuff in this pack, and if I could make use of this, that would be great, especially if I could get some model instancing here to kick in. I think I'd be in great shape. Because, as far as I know, Unity does a good job with model instancing, and a lot of their stuff would benefit from the... Where are the textures? Oh, here's the textures. A lot of the stuff would really benefit from... I'm just going to drag this over now because I'm probably going to end up using these at least a little bit. I kind of wish I could tweak this, but at the same time I don't. It's probably just going to end up being I'm probably going to end up doing a lot of the art in Blender, which means that this texture atlas, just so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about, I'll bring it up in paint.net. This texture atlas has everything in it, which means I have to have some smart UV patterns, but at the same time, if I can do it right, you'll note that everything is packed into one fairly simple texture, which makes my life a lot easier as well when it comes to, hey look, I want to make boxes. Well, guess what? There's box bits here on the right. Or, oh, I want to do a stump. Well, here's the stump bits down here. And it's an optimization to send one larger texture to the graphics card than it is to send a bunch of little ones. Mental is asking, how am I planning on doing the lighting? That's a difficult one. Lighting is one of those things that's difficult because it really depends on where I want to spend my graphics processing time. For example, if I want to do a lot of big outdoor scenes, or do I want indoor scenes with a lot of torches and dynamic lights, that's something I haven't honestly thought much about. I'm probably going to end up using a lot of radial pixel lights and then just fighting with Unity at how many I can have in any given scene, because you're always limited by the number of pixel lights you can have in a view screen at once. Mostly just because you can't have a shader with too many pixel lights, or else your complexity gets too high and then suddenly it starts running like crap. So we need to be careful of that. Outdoor scenes are easier, obviously. Just one giant moon, one giant sun, or maybe multiple suns and multiple moons, but your light sources are pretty easy in daylight situations. We'll see. I'll have to ponder that one. That is a really good question, though. Especially for someone starting out like myself. You have to really sit here and kind of go, okay, what's next? Whiteland asking, do I plan on getting back to the game I left some months ago? Probably not. That concept was built on the idea that there would be two people working on it, and my interest in that has dropped since my partner's interest disappeared. It's also difficult to go back to that because I was planning on certain features ending up inside of the engine, and the engine has been discontinued by its author, so that also makes my life a little more difficult. It wouldn't make it impossible to finish that game, but it is definitely difficult. Also because it's in C++, that's just, I'm going to spend more time on the game, because honestly that's just like a caveat of C++. If you make a game in that language, you're going to spend time fudging with the memory managers and the the various details of C++. Writing header files just takes time. I know they're an integral part of the the language, but it's something that C# has smartly just abstracted away completely. And so that's something that I didn't really want to fight with. As much fun as it was to work on that game, I think it's going to sit on hiatus until I can figure out what I'm going to do in order to bring it to a finished state. And I honestly am not sure when that's going to happen. So yeah. And there's a wall of text from Hobbly Gobbly. Okay. Images. I always like images. Woo. Ooh. I like that look. That is really freaking cool. I don't know if I'd want to go, so just to show you guys what I'm looking at, he's talking about essentially using a render texture system to do a full screen effect, it sounds like, and then taking the full screen effect and applying basic dithering to it. So you can use crappy low quality textures and still get this like old school look. This looks like some pixel artist went there and did like a really friggin' good job. Honestly, this looks professional quality. It's absolutely lovely. The hard edge here is probably the biggest thing I'd complain about. And that's because I assume this is handmade, not anything else. So that's really friggin' cool that you can actually do that with a low-res texture and some dithering. Let's see, where was the other image? The other image kind of shows off a little better what the effect would look like probably in real time. You can see that 3D assets get a little eaten up, especially curved edges don't survive quite so well. You can see the aliasing on some of the hard edges. You'd need a high poly count for this to really, really look nice. That's why the sphere here. You can really see the normals and the hard edges on some of the lighting. Not a terrible thing, honestly. I've definitely seen a lot worse, especially, once again, it's this floor and wall texture looks gorgeous in its own way. It definitely screams old school. I'm not sure I'd want to go with it, but I like what this is kind of bringing about. If I wanted to do something like a cutscene, this might be something I'd want to look into. I'd actually probably create a separate Unity project just for this. I would then mock up a couple still scenes, take screenshots, and dump them into the game itself, so that I would have some really neat looking stuff, such as that first image. You walk to you're talking in the end of a hallway with somebody. Well, guess what? Here's your background. That's friggin' awesome. And the stuff you can do with Unity is honestly really impressive. It looks like there's a little bit of filtering going on here, that maybe if that filtering got removed, it might help. Although I'm not sure. It really depends on what some of these textures look like in reality. It's hard to make decisions based on that. But see, this dithering right here, this spot that I'm rotating my cursor around where the shadowing changes, like that. Magnifique. That is gorgeous. And that gives me some really good ideas. Thank you, Hobbly Gobbly, very much. That is a great suggestion. Huh. Yeah, I might have to ask to steal that dithering shader from you at some point, because that's something you can tell. These aren't the highest resolution things in the world. Yeah, they look nice, but that's because they're hand painted. And hand painted always has that that quality to it that looks nice, as opposed to you just had crappy royalty-free textures there, and it still looked gorgeous. That is a feat that I would love to be able to pull off. So let's see, some thoughts here. Okay, paint.net, sure, do your thing. Water, ground, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff to keep in mind when we're building this, and we're going to have to kind of wrap our heads around some obvious things and maybe some not so obvious things while we're at it. For example, we need some UI on the screen. Okay, how do I want to build that UI? And also, who do I want to control that UI? Because the party should not control that UI. Even though the party is rendering to it, if anything, the party should maybe have their own UI that they render to. That actually probably is better. And then I just have a sort order inside of it. No, thanks, Paint.net. You're great. What else do we have? I'm trying to think of other things that we can have and do to make this. Holy crap, there's a lot of you here. Sorry, I haven't looked at my viewer list in a while. Hey guys, glad you could join me this morning. I can't see exactly how many viewers I have, but I'm gonna guess I'm in the 20s? Man. Oh, lightning. Mental is that, wait. Mental, were you asking me about lighting or lightning? Because it says lightning in the chat, and I just realized I went on this giant tirade about lighting, and you say lightning. Because lightning is an easy 3D effect. Done right, it can be stupidly simple. I also love how it just creates this materials folder for me. It's like, yeah, you're going to need a material. Here you go. All right, cool. Thanks, I guess. This is really bright, too. I just can't help but notice things right now. I know I'm not working on actual, like, art details, but I can't help but notice that this almost looks like a shiny white. I love how if I mark it as metallic, or I can mark it as smooth, but no, that's not right either. I'll have to figure that one out. Yeah, we can probably, can we darken it with the albedo coloring? Yeah, we can. So that might be the way to, that might be one way to handle that. Although that probably isn't the right way to handle it. Alright, so, what comes next and where do we go from here? Right, we've got basic movement. Basic movement's fairly simple. We'll need to figure out collision, and we'll also need to figure out where our grid is, because right now I can't see the grid. So I may want to build something in the editor that actually allows me to see the grid, so that I can figure out both its size and its contents. I honestly would love to just have something. Let's do that real quick. There should be a way to draw a grid in the Unity editor. Like, you would really think that that should be possible. We have a grid script already. Draw the grid, on draw. Okay, so so here's our grid. I love how there's nothing even in our start function. It's just like a data container is like, oh yeah, grid size is a thing. On draw gizmos. So on draw gizmos is a function that's called by the Unity editor. And what it essentially does is lets us draw things inside the editor as long as we don't crash it, which Unity will sometimes let us do, as silly as it is. On a rare occasion, I have been able to bump things accidentally off the editor and crash the Unity editor using code in here. It's not often. Most, like 99% of the time, Unity catches it, but it is not a bug-free engine, and so we've got the grid size, and I'm going to call this grid bounds. And my pocket keeps vibrating because I assume you people continue to follow, which all I can say is thank you. Okay, and I've got somebody I don't recognize sending me spam texts. I love it. I love spam texts. They're not the most annoying thing ever. Don't worry. 3 new followers. See, I have to check my email to see my follower count. I actually don't. Oh, 4. Now 4. I actually have to check my email to see my follower count. I need to figure out some way so that it actually like pops up in chat or does something I can see so that I can actually like say thank you when you guys do that. Grim Gary, his name is Blue Booger, and Duke 1102, thank you very much for following. I know it's not much. It's not like you're actually subscribing or anything, but I am working my way towards that 1,000 follower goal of my own. That's kind of a personal goal. And also I'm just, you know, happy to have more people along for the ride. I'm honestly really trying just to see how far we can really go with a game made as close to entirely on stream as possible. I know this isn't exactly like this isn't exactly Handmade Hero or anything, but I still would like to be able to say, hey, look, we, you know, made a game on stream and people learned things and it was awesome. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so how do we draw a line? There is a gizmos.drawLine. Twitch alerts. Yeah. I kind of figured it would be a thing. In-stream pop-ups. Oh, okay, I see. I'll poke at that while I won't poke at that while I'm at work. Thank you for the link, Mental. I love how grid size is a float, and so can there be like, yeah, I mean, it's so grid size, and maybe I should be a little clearer with this, right? Let's not call it grid size. Let's call it grid spacing, so that we know how far our grid spaces are from each other. And that means I am probably going to have to update this variable. Yeah, I am. And then grid bounds. Once again, these are terrible names. Grid spacing is better. Grid bounds, not so much. Not quite. Let's see. Can I do this better? I think I can. Can I use a rectangle as a thing in the Unity editor, or is it going to barf? Okay, well, it's barfing because there's code it doesn't like. But once the code it doesn't like is gone, yes! Oh, that's what I wanted. That is so what I wanted. X, Y, width, and height. I need to figure out if this is exactly what I want, but it's pretty friggin' close. Are these floats? Yeah, they are. Ugh. I was kind of hoping that they'd be ints. A 2D rectangle. Let's just do it ourselves by hand. I wanted to be lazy. I guess I don't get to be lazy. Does that pass across to the Unity editor just fine? Yes, it does. Good. Okay. I love how I've typed this already, but I have to do it again because, whoops. But now I have the right variables. I can actually do what I intend on doing. Phone, whoops. Don't mind that. That's, I always tend to wake up I say very early. I tend to wake up earlier than my girlfriend. So she tends to wake up and immediately text me and say hi. Would it be conspicuous if I said like, oh, hey guys, I gotta go, and I just like ran off stream? Probably. All right, gizmos, draw line, not cube, draw line. All right. So for each y, for each x. Yeah, drawing stuff. Yeah, it's probably gonna just like happen every morning. I'm just gonna be sitting here like, hey guys, doing my stream, and then you'll just be like, oh hey, there's his daily chat from his girlfriend. Ah. Yeah, it just kind of happens. See, and we just send each other hearts. That's all there really is to it. That's all. We just hearts. That's it. We don't actually talk. Words are for losers. But not really, because we just also Google stickers take up the whole friggin' chat panel. Dang it. Okay. Getting distracted here. I need to not be. Like I really need not to be. Let's see. So first off, this is a bad for loop. And there are many reasons why, but the biggest thing is it's just a bad for loop. Grid min x, there we go. 0, and then grid min z. Oh, I see what I've done. I called this y. I really have to get used to having a y up system again. I'm really not a huge fan of the fact that I'm in a y up system. And what I mean by that is that Unity goes x, y, and z, as opposed to I'm used to a x, y, z system. It just means that there's going to be some fighting between me and Unity every once in a while when I put the wrong word in or I say the wrong thing. It's just kind of how it goes. There we go. That should do the trick. And of course, we now go from x to the grid min x. There we go. So this should, and I say should, it's a very big should. As long as she is not Miss Waffles yet. At least not that kind of, well, no, Miss. That's the, is that the correct one? Ah, man, I was never good with the Miss, Ms, and Mrs. distinctions. Wow, 35 users. There's a lot of you here. Thank you guys for constantly pushing me to the first slot of the game dev tab, by the way. You guys are friggin' awesome. Friggin' awesome. Alright, cool. So this looks right. I think I've done this right. Obviously, the easy way to test is just do it. If I select grid, I don't see it. Did I do something silly? On draw gizmos. Oh, I did select the wrong object. I also don't have there we go. So the only weirdness going on right now is the fact that I'm only seeing one set of lines, even though, oh, that's so bizarre. It's like these lines are somehow drawing over each other. I am doing this right, aren't I? I mean, it just seems so bizarre that this would not want to play nice. Or that they wouldn't draw over each other correctly. There's no, yeah, there's nothing else I can see going on in here. And I'm going from, here's our problem. Grid min z to grid max z. Haha. And, that's a heck of a name. C6H10O5. That is probably, is that caffeine? I want to say, let's see. It's oh gosh. Diethyl pyrocarbonate? Okay, diethyl dicarbonate. Yada. Okay, it's nothing I know of. I was hoping it was caffeine. Sorry, buddy. But yes, they had it right. What do I recommend for noobs in C#? Honestly, what do I recommend for noobs? Oh gosh. So a lot of my old streams I go over this, but this is kind of a new stream, so I don't mind saying it again. Anyone who's starting programming, whether you're going to start in C# or C++ or Unity, it doesn't really matter. Pick a project, something simple, say Pong, Asteroids, Centipede. Very, like, literally an old school retro game is great. And find resources that will help you make that game. That's really one of the easiest ways if you're like one of those hands-on people like me who need to see something and play with it in order to get it to work. Pick a simple project that you know you can finish and then proceed to just tear through that. There we go. Okay, cool. Seriously, what do I call you? Like, do I call you like bicarbonate? I don't know. Like, I'm looking at this thing going, also called diethyl dicarbonate, not bicarbonate. I have to stop doing that. I don't know. I'll figure out what to call you later. Yeah, seriously, mental is correct here. Just freaking go out and Shia LaBeouf it and just get it done. Like I said, good learning points. So finding tutorials. If you've never programmed before, then that's definitely one way to do it. If you've never programmed before, it might be easier to find yourself a good book and get started in. It's supposed to be starch. So you're starchy. I'll call you starchy. I like that. But yeah, so from the start, I'd say pick a project and then learn things that help you complete that project. That would really be the easiest way. Also, I'm noting I have a back line here, but not a front line. Probably because I'm doing a less than instead of a less than and equal to. There we go. There's the grid. That's what I wanted. That is more of what I wanted, at least. Can't see it in this view, but that's fine. This is purely for my support inside of an editor, so nice. I like it. Because sometimes, there's definitely going to be a point where I need tools like this, and I'm going to probably end up making a lot of these tools, especially given the way that Unity supports making tools. It's just going to be the easy way to handle things, is I'm going to start slapping things down in Engine, and I'm just going to end up making things in the editor, and or in Blender, and then supporting them across. So making tools is going to be a large part of this stream. There's probably going to be more than a few streams solely dedicated to, I need a tool that does X. I need a tool that makes monsters. I need a tool that data drives my monsters, or I need to save my party to a file. Stuff like that where I require tools. Grim Gary, Lady Waffles? Yeah, I guess that kind of works. Hello, Beetlecore. Duke asking, what is my job? I am a game developer currently. I'm working with a small startup in the educational industry. The idea is that we make educational games, hopefully that help both student and teacher. It's kind of hard to say more because we're so early on that there's just a lot going on. So it's hard to be like, well, I do this, because my fingers are literally in every part of the company's pie right now. I've got, I've done email work, I've done server end work, I've done front end work. My front end work is usually Unity. I'm just kind of all over the place. So yeah, right now I guess technically I'm senior engineer at the company. Not that that means much because there's only 2 engineers, but yeah, it's cool. Guys, I do have to take off in a couple minutes, so if you have any final questions, I think this is actually a good place to stop. I've got more planning to do anyway, so before I continue this. But yeah, if there's anything you guys want to ask, feel free. I'm always happy to answer questions midstream, even if you're just kind of curious what the heck I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I might be able to help. Cool. Currently targeting a traineeship as a software engineer myself. Well, good luck with that, Duke. That definitely can be a... getting your foot in the door is kind of the hardest part. Once you're in, it becomes easy. After my first internship at Sony, I ended up getting a second internship at Sony very quickly and easily the next summer after that. And then to get another internship at a different software company, what then was the original OnLive. It was easy to get internships once I got that first one. Once my foot was in the door, it becomes really, really simple to continue finding more jobs, especially if somebody brings you back a second time, or if you get really high notes from the first internship. People are always looking to steal good early talent. And so, yeah, internships are definitely one way to go. Paid internships, I say. That's a very big distinction for me. You should not work for free unless you really can help it. Mental asking, how do I know that I have too many scripts in my project? That's a difficult one, because the size of your project is also going to size what counts as too many. If I have a project this size and I'm at 30 scripts already, something is probably wrong. Versus if I've got 30 scripts and I'm on something the size of a small AAA game, 30 is amazing. So you have to be careful when you say too many scripts, because it really depends on the scope and size of your game. Now, what I would say is that you probably have too many scripts if you're noting that you have a bunch of little one-off scripts that only get used in one place. For example, if I have a script that does little more than like runs a start function and then just deletes itself, and I've got a million of those, you got to be careful, because it is really easy to do with Unity, and it's something you really shouldn't do all the time, is have a bunch of tiny little scripts that do their little bit of work and then just kind of throw things out. So you've got to be careful about that fact. Aside from that, it's really hard to define too many. There is a point of good architecture that you just have to keep in mind. If there are a lot of things going on inside your system, it might be better to have more scripts. It just depends on the architecture of your game and how it all looks. Alright guys, well, I gotta take off. I gotta go get ready for work. I don't have shoes on. My dog has not been fed. And I've got other things that need taken care of before I run off. So, thanks again for joining me. Thanks again for pushing me to the top of the Game Dev channel. It's great to have all of you here. If you guys haven't already, please hit the follow button below. You'll catch me each time I'm on. I'll be back on tomorrow morning doing more of this. I might even at some point do another stream that's got some more planning involved. That might even be the next stream tomorrow morning, is more planning side, because I honestly have not planned a ton of this. But we'll see. I'll go one step at a time. Thanks again for joining me. I'll catch you all next time.